Well, a very good afternoon to you. Perhaps it's good morning or very good evening to our international guests as well. My name is Natalie Ashdown. It is wonderful to welcome you to the Coaching Café and to welcome my co-star, co-host, Emma Doyle to the line as well. Hi there, Emma.
G'day, how are you?
Great, and we've just been having everyone tell us where they're dialing in from. So, quite a range of people dialing in from all around the world, which is fantastic. We're talking about what makes a great coach. We're so excited to announce the book last week. And over the next few weeks, we're going to be getting into some of the specific chapters and talking about some of the practices. And today, we're going to be talking about passion. So, very excited to be talking about this with you, Emma. And before we begin, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners, the custodians on the lands on which we're all meeting today around the world, and their continuing connection to the land, waters, and communities of Australia and our international communities. We pay our respects to them and to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and of course, anyone that might be from an Indigenous background from the country that you're actually dialing in from today as well. And of course, oh, thanks, Nathan has said congratulations on the book already. And of course, you might be listening to this on Spotify, Apple, you might be streaming it on a podcast. So we hope that this will give you a bit of inspiration as you're going about your day as well. So the agenda is pretty easy, actually. We're going to be talking about the number one practice that we discovered in the book through your research, Emma, and that is about passion. For those of you that are new to the Coaching Cafe, welcome. We're all about creating a community, sharing our learned experience. We're about having thought-provoking conversations. And of course, if you're here because you also want to collect your ICF CCEUs, that will be available at the end of the session. So, as we mentioned, we're going to be talking about the different topics as we go along. And today, the topic will be about passion. So, I'll stop my screen. Emma, perhaps we can just get into the conversation. If anyone, we really love the interaction. So, if you want to interact with us, please do via typing messages into the chat box. Tell us what you're thinking. What makes a great coach? The book is designed to actually help us as experienced coaches reflect on on the top 10 practices of the world's best coaches. So, as you're thinking about what we're talking about with passion, I'd be really keen, and Emma and I would be really keen to hear about what are your thoughts on passion? How do you bring passion to your work? How do you bring out passion as experienced coaches in the people that you're actually working with? So I'll stop my share. And we can get into the conversation, Emma. So, firstly, congratulations on the book and the announcement. And let me say again, what a privilege to partner with you on the book. I've got my mock-up copy here. How do you feel about it now that we've actually made the announcement?
Yeah, I'm excited. I've also got my mock-up copy, but mine says
Oh, okay.
not for resale, by the way. So
Okay.
I do have the you must have got the extra copy, but I'm excited to have it in my hands. It's a physical now living proof of years of work. And when it arrived, it was a wonderful moment. I was like, okay, this is actually the real deal. And I love the cover. I'm a scribbler. I love a whiteboard or a blackboard, which is the concept behind the cover. And I love that thought that there's not one, even though we're here to talk about passion tonight, Natalie, there's not one way to coach, and there's not just one quality that makes a great coach. So that's what I love about holding the physical product and the words all jumbled. I'm a bit like that with my creative side when I'm brainstorming. I've seen you actually mentor me once, and your page was like in a diamond shape. Do you still work that way?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that was the concept too, that, when we're brainstorming, when we're scribbling, I love that we brought that to the book, as you said. And yeah, that's the way that we work creatively, which is kind of cool. Messy,
Mm.
but But very cool.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned, so there'll be people on the podcast, Emma, that don't know you, and there'll be people on the podcast that don't know me as well. But, perhaps you can give a quick background to your background in coaching, but then
Mm.
also tell us a little bit about the research that brought the book to fruition as well, as you mentioned.
Yeah, yeah, would love to. So I guess one thing about my journey is I always say, Nat, that I played multiple sports growing up, but I was the master of none. I don't know if anyone can relate to that. I have hand-eye coordination, hand-foot coordination. As you give me a bat and a ball, and I can pretty much play most sports. And so that was really fascinating growing up. And so strategically, I always had this brain where I could almost oversee any sport, it felt like anyway, and sort of understand what was going on. And so that was really intriguing because it was not like I was number one in the world, or as you said, not many people maybe potentially have heard of me. And that's okay, because being a coach is what gave me the platform and the environment for me to be able to step into my potential. And I had that opportunity when I was 14. And it was crazy. It was just a weird sort of experience. We spoke about it last week on the podcast. I won't go. So check out that episode if you want to hear that story.
Yeah.
But essentially, I've been coaching now based on that. If you do your maths, you'll be able to find out my age, but basically for just over 30 years. Of course, during my teenage years, I was still very focused on my playing career, which we're definitely going to talk a little bit and dabble a bit into that tonight on the podcast. But that's a brief background on how the journey started, and the way that it's progressed is mainly because of you coming into my life and significantly shifting the course of my journey when I went and studied under yourself in 2006. Can you believe that? And
Wow,
so,
I can't.
yeah,
Yes.
the Open Door Coaching Group and those fabulous group of women who I'm still in close contact with today. And that journey actually helped me become a more well-rounded coach, not just a tennis coach, or not just pigeonholing myself as a business coach as well. It's like bringing both sport and business together. So I'm so fortunate to be able to do that, to now be able to partner with Open Door and run Open Door coaching courses here in the US, Leader as Coach, and more specifically the High Performance Workplace Coaching Certification, which is the Cert 4 equivalent in Melbourne. And I'm humbled, grateful, honored to be able to represent the brand, because I believe in it and I know how effective it is when we bring high performance sports philosophies into workplace coaching. So that's a little bit about me. What about a little bit about you for our listeners that might not know you, Natalie?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now you did say not many people know you, Emma, but that is absolutely not true, because this book is actually full of hundreds of people that not only know you, but they've written testimonials about the book, and they are some of what are the world's best coaches. We're talking about Serena Williams, coach. We're talking about Nick Bollettieri, grandfather of coaching in tennis. So lots of people know you, but I thought we'd just mention it in case they didn't know that you had originally that tennis background, and then you fused that into the corporate world, which is what we try to do with Bring Out Their Best. How do we combine your knowledge of tennis coaching and elite performance, and then merge that with workplace coaching? And I think that's what we've done in terms of, that's my background: workplace coaching, corporate coaching, the coach training of leaders and managers and senior managers. So very
Well, sorry,
exciting.
Nat's very humble there. She's like, that's my background. She's one of Australia's most senior, most experienced coaches, going around and working with the Australian Air Force, all sorts of things. Can't wait to see if we can work with the Colorado Air Force. Well, it's right here in Colorado Springs. We'll see what we can do there to impact a coaching culture in the workplace. I think that's what we're both passionate about deep down, isn't it, Nat?
Yeah, absolutely. And it does really bring us to our topic, isn't it? When we think, we had a lot of discussions about what are we passionate about, and it is the number one practice. when you asked over 500 of the world's greatest coaches what makes a great coach, the number one response was passion. And so we've talked about that. And you're right, I'm passionate about creating workplaces we can be proud of, passionate about bringing out the best in people. And I think that's where we connect as well. Tell me, Emma, that breakthrough moment for you when we talked about passion. We're going to quote it nonstop, but tell us what
Yeah.
came out of you when we
Yeah.
started saying, "What about passion?" Though.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll start with that, because I sort of spat it out on a Zoom call with you, Natalie. And
Yeah.
Natalie, you said, "Well, why don't we make that the chapter quote?" And I was like, "No, we can't quote me. That's way too weird to quote yourself as an author on the practice." But honestly, it was so powerful the moment that it hit me. What does it mean to really be passionate as a coach? So I'll read it to you, because now I have it in front of me, of course, in book form.
Exactly.
When you are passionate, everything flows. It's a driving force. Coaching is your vocation. You were put on the planet to coach, and you do it because you're passionate about it. And that summarizes everything about what we've used the words already: humble, grateful, to wear a tracksuit to work for at least 20 years of my life. Now I sometimes wear a half tracksuit, half corporate suit. But to be able to just rock up and know that you're on purpose, and know that this is what you were put on the planet to do, then it just flows out of you. And I think once I had that moment where that just came out, I was like, oh, that's what it means to me. And we couldn't find a quote that summarized it any better. So apologies, everybody, but yeah, we quoted each other. Natalie's definitely got the empathy quote going on as well. So that's what it meant to me at the core of my heart and my being, to be a coach.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And we see it, which is wonderful. And hopefully, if you're listening to this later, you can hear the passion in Emma's voice as well. Feel free to jump into the chat and tell us what it means to you as well. The reason this question came up was because I was saying people say, oh, that person's passionate. Oh, that's a really passionate person. Oh, that person's so passionate. And we will get feedback that we're passionate about our work. And then I said, but what does it really mean? What does it really mean to be passionate? And then when you said it's a driving force, even listening to you now, goosebumps. You can see it, you can feel it. It's a driving force in what you do, and it creates some of the other best practices, the listener empathy, the energy that we will talk about in the book as well.
Yeah, the one thing that came up for me in just hearing you say that was it'll come to me. Sorry, the thought just lost me for a minute. It'll come back to me. So it was related to when we are living and being our strengths, which taps in, that was what I was going to say, which taps into one of our other practices, number 2, around belief. When we believe in what we're doing, that energy comes forward in terms of a passion. And that was it. That's what I was going to say. Very important,
Okay.
Nat, because we bring it up in the book, which is that it's not the rah-rah passion. It's not, passion doesn't mean you have to be full of energy and full of extroversion and this is what I'm passionate about and let the whole world know. People that sometimes say very little, you can tell that they're living their passion and they're working in their passion. So I think that's important, because so many people responded with the actual word of passion, obviously, because it was the number one quality, even though it's practice 4, by the way. It's practice 4 in the book, but to keep you all in suspense for what the number 1 practice was, which we've just let the cat out of the bag, and of course it was passion. So what are your thoughts on that, Natalie, around how leaders in the workplace display passion?
It's very true, actually, because we talk about that rah rah passion, and you see it in the workplace. You also see it on the sporting field, like you'll see it in tennis, and there's examples in the book we have of tennis players where you can obviously see their passion because they wear it on their sleeves. But the really important distinction here is about we don't have to be that extroverted person in the workplace to be passionate about our work and to bring that forward. And I'm thinking about some of the people we coach, like at Air Force or at CSR or Australia's leading science um, uh, institution. I'll coach many scientists who aren't that kind of rah rah on the platform, passion on your sleeve kind of people, but you can hear it in their voice. You can listen to how they talk about their science, which many times I have no idea what they're doing, but it comes out in their work. It comes out in their lifelong dedication as well to their work. And we see a lot of that in the workplace. And I think it's really important to appreciate that people have, dedicated many years or a lifetime or maybe a short time, whatever it is, they've gone full in as a driving force around whatever they're doing, not only in their workplaces, but in their home lives as well. So we're thinking about it in different ways.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And
we've got sorry, go on, Emma.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just thought there, we've got a comment from DJ Butler who says, Emma, you're an inspiration to coaches around the world. Thank you for all of your passion that you bring to the sport. So it's lovely. Thank you for
DJ,
sharing that.
You are he is one of the most humble and passionate leaders that goes above and beyond. So yeah, thank you for saying that. That means a lot. And that's a classic example of what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I want to move on then and talk about the person who we've featured on the front slide. And his name is Dr. David Parkin. So he's a very important person to you, Emma, and a very important person when it comes to talking about passion. So we do feature him in the book, in the practice about passion. He comes up a few times. So could you tell us a story behind meeting him, why he's important to you? Tell us about how you met him the first time and why I'm asking a stacked question. Apologies, coaches on the line. Tell us the story behind David Parkin. There you go. That's a better way of putting it.
Yeah, there you go. So it was in 1994 and February, like March, first day of university. And David Parkin, I get into the course of my dreams, sports coaching and administration. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. And at 8:05, our first lecture is beginning coaching. And he has a vein just here, and it's protruding out of his neck. And his cheeks are already rosy. And it's like almost like a little bit of perspiration on his forehead. And all he's doing is talking about coaching. He's not even, and David Parkin is one of Australia's most legendary AFL, which is Australian Rules Football League coaches. Not only that, at the time, he was still the current coach of Carlton Football Club, which happened to be my team since I was 5 years of age. So there I am. He's the current coach, and I'm in this lecture, and he's talking about coaching. His veins popping, and he's so into it that you could hear a pin drop in the room. And I was like, that is passion. And he wasn't rah rah, but it was the tone and the depth of what he was saying. I was writing a million notes from day one, and I was like, this is exactly where I'm meant to be. So you can imagine my surprise, Nat. I think this could be part of your stacked question, but when 6 months into the course, he pulls me into his office, and it was almost like when I was at the school getting pulled into the principal's office. I was like, oh God, like, what have I done? And he said, listen, I want to meet with you. And he asked me my sliding doors and my tipping point question in my life, one of them in the early days. And he said, Emma, do you want to be the best coach that you can be? You know, it was like so animated. And I was like, yes, like, what am I going to do? Sign me up. Like, how do I do this? I want to be this. And he said, have you maximized your playing potential as a tennis player? And I was like, absolutely not. No way have I maximized this. I was in the best shape of my life. I was playing more tennis than you can ever imagine. I had a lot less contact hours, you know, and I said, no, I haven't. And he said, well, what are you going to do about it? And I said, well, there's this thing called US college tennis that some of my friends play, and I think maybe I'm good enough, but I literally, honestly, I had no idea whether I was good enough. Wrote away to 10 colleges. Whoever wrote back to me first, that was where I was going to go. And within 2 weeks at the end of that first year, the first college coach who wrote back to me, he said, we have a low crime rate here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Sorry for that bad Southern accent there for the American listeners. And the next thing you know, within, you know, I was on a plane, and I said, Mum, what's a crime rate? I didn't really care. And it was amazing for him to take that risk of losing a student, and for him to say, for you to become the best coach, you have to push yourself more. I think there's more in your playing career for you. Then when I took world teams away and we were in Australia versus Belarus, I knew what that feeling was like. Yes, I wasn't necessarily wearing the green and gold, but representing MTSU, putting on the college uniform, put me in moments of pressure and moments of playing for more than just myself, which brings us back to passion. It's more than just yourself. It's when you have that, and of course, practice number 3 is purpose, as we know. And having that greater purpose ignites the passion, or vice versa. Horse before the cart, or cart before the horse, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it was something that I wanted to play for my teammates. And some of those girls I'm still very close with today because of that experience, because I pushed myself, and that helped me become a much better coach, especially under pressure, whether I'm representing Australia at the World Championship level or in the workplace when you've got to cut that deal or you have to make something happen. So David Parkin really did impact my coaching world, and I'm really grateful. And he's a wonderful mentor and continues to be in my life today. So,
Yeah,
like you,
thank
Nat.
you for sharing. Oh, thank you for sharing that story. I remember you telling me it the first time, and I got goosebumps, and now I'm getting goosebumps again. So I think people who are listening got to get used to us saying that a few times over the next few weeks as well. But it talks about the importance of a couple of things for me. First of all, yes, David Parkin's been an incredible mentor, but what an incredible couple of questions he asked, and we do feature them in the book as well. Those couple of breakthrough questions that really draw out the passions in people. So that's the first thing. But the second thing I'm thinking about is, when you were talking about the, the hard times, like you're talking about times when we didn't have Facebook and internet and all the other things to actually make those connections. It's your passion that continues to be that driving force. We're passionate about being great coaches, and that's the driving force that made you stretch out of your comfort zone. So I was reflecting on that as well. The passions we have are a driving force that continue to help us overcome the hurdles and build resilience as well.
Absolutely. And I think the other piece within this practice that's important for us to reflect on as coaches is how we discover that in others, and how we bring that out in others so that they can channel it in the right communication pathway. Because sometimes people could be passionate, but they can be sometimes overbearing if they're just always talking about their passion. So I think as coaches, it's important that we understand what other people's passions are to be able to tap into those to then bring out their best Sorry to quote your book there. But I think that's what the practice is all about. And remember, we call our chapters practices, because you can't just go passion. Oh yeah, I do that. Yeah, I am passionate. Oh, okay, tick the box. I've got passion in my coaching toolkit. It's an evolution, because every person that you meet, every person that comes into your world, you have to then rediscover what they're passionate about to help them live it and be it. And I think that's one of our driving forces as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about it in the book that it's incumbent upon us, isn't it, as coaches, to try to draw out those passions in people and discover what they are, and then think about how do we bring that into the work they're doing, into the corporate space or the tennis space or the sporting space, whatever, into the home space, whatever space that might be. And, it reminds me that, as we said in the very beginning of the book, this is not a ticker box, like you said, Emma. It's not like, oh yeah, I do this. This book is designed to give us some really nice questions that we can reflect on as coaches, to say, how are we practicing passion? How does my passion show up? Do I need to dial it back, dial it up? How am I coaching others to bring out their passion? So thanks for reminding us of that. There's a couple of people jumping into the chat, which is really nice. Anne says, working for a not-for-profit organisation. She's surrounded by passionate people. It's lovely, isn't it, to see people doing that work. And Nathan says, dedication to your mentees' goals, pride in seeing the evolution of a mentee's or a coachee's performance. They become our driving forces as well. I agree with you, Nathan. Thank you. Yeah. Well, feel free, everyone, to jump into the chat. Tell us what you're reflecting on. Perhaps you might want to jump into the chat for the last couple of minutes just to tell us what questions you might ask as well. And Emma, would you like to give us an update on when people might be able to get their hands on the actual book? Are we allowed to do that yet?
Well, as you can tell, Natalie and I are very passionate about the pre-launch and about telling you all about what's happening with the book. So we are using the month of August to share the top practices. And we are now, we had a meeting with our book editor lady and our design lady, the one helping us put it out into the world. And she's pretty keen on the 8th of September. We're pretty keen on the 8th of September. So just pencil that date in there for the moment. We're definitely going to have a book launch countdown. We're going to have a book launch little party. And of course, that is the US Open. It'll be the women's semi-final day. So we've got 4 days over that US Open finals day where you're watching the tennis, or perhaps you're working and you think, well, I'm going to get myself a copy of What Makes a Great Coach. And so we will let you know. Of course, next week we're going to be talking about the third top practice of listening. So I'm excited Nat and I are both excited about that practice of what it means to truly listen, and listen to the announcements on our socials of when officially. There's a few things out of our hands, isn't that right, Natalie? We've discovered with Amazon and all these things in between what we want and what they want, but we will get there, and we are excited about it. And I'm gonna just hold it up again.
Put it under your pillow.
I've already got my little note, my clips on the chapter.
Spot on. Yeah, so anyway, as Emma said, everybody, you can actually watch out on the socials. We'll be posting a lot of the quotes that come from the book, and we'll be sharing the practices as we go along. As always, we're super keen to hear what your thoughts about the practices are as well. So in the meantime, thanks everyone for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you. Thanks again, Emma, for joining us. We'll see you next week when we're talking about listening, and we're going to bring in a couple of amazing coaches and a couple of, former world number ones talking about listening as well. But for now, we say thank you for joining us and enjoy your coaching.